arrow which passes through this layer. This is the cell wall. The cell wall. So, one root, water and minerals will move through cell walls. Will move through cell walls. From cell wall of epidermis cell to the cell wall of cortex cell. Then it enters to the cell wall of endodermal cells. But after reaching here, water and minerals cannot continue to move through the cell walls. Why? Think it. Why? I think you check these bands. These bands are known as Casparian strips. Casparian strips are composed of suberin materials. Suberin materials prevent water and minerals to pass through. It means they are waterproofing materials. That is why they force water now to enter the protoplasm of endodermis. This phenomenon is found only in roots. In leaves, no Casparian strips. Therefore, this route through which water moves through the cell walls is known as apoplasty pathway. It is known as apoplasty pathway. But apart from that, water also can move from one cytoplasm to another cytoplasm. For example, here, these arrows. Water moves from here and it enters to the cytoplasm of another cell, that is the cortex. From here, it enters the cytoplasm of endodermis. From endodermis, it enters the cytoplasm of pericycle. This way is what is called the symplasty pathway. Symplasty pathway. The third way is not indicated in this diagram. The third way is vacuolar pathway. Let me show you another diagram in order to visualize the vacuolar pathway. In this diagram, all the three routes have been indicated. That is apoplasty pathway, symplasty pathway, and vacuolar pathway. You see this arrow here at the middle. This arrow indicates the vacuolar pathway. It passes from vacuole to vacuole. From vacuole A of cell A to vacuole B of cell B to vacuole C of cell C. Therefore, when water and mineral salts move across the vacuola, we call that route as vacuolar pathway. And here, this one moves through the cytoplasm. It moves from one cytoplasm to the second cytoplasm of another cell through plasmodesmata, from cell B to cell C through plasmodesmata. Therefore, this way is what is called the symplasty pathway. And the last one moves here through the cell wall. Cell wall A, then to cell wall B, then to cell wall C. This pathway is what is known as apoplasty pathway. But in this diagram, the Casparian strips have not been indicated. The reason behind is because the names here which have been given is only A, B, and C. But always remember that when water passes through the cell wall, when it reaches the endodermal cell wall, there are Casparian strips which have been made up of suberin. It acts as waterproof and it forces water now, which moves through the cell walls to enter the protoplasm of the cell. I think you have understood. And another thing here is that when water enters the pericycle, in pericycle here, when it enters the pericycle, it means it creates secretion of mineral salts into xylem. Therefore, when xylem secretes mineral salts, its concentration becomes high and its water potential becomes low. In so doing, it is easy for water to enter the xylem vessel. So, those are the ways through which water can be transported across the root. Question 3 says that with the help of diagram, describe the paths of movement of water and the mineral salts across the roots. There is no difference between question number 2 and question number 3. Question 3, there is only with the help of diagrams. It means you are required to describe the same paths, but diagram should be used. As your homework, you will do that question. Question 4 says why Casparian strips are important in roots. We have seen Casparian strips in endodermal cells in roots. Here we are required to explain the importance of Casparian strips. Okay, number 1, it regulates amount of water entering the xylem vessel. It regulates, you can say it regulates, so it controls the amount of water entering the xylem. That is 1. Second, it prevents entry of toxins and the other pathogens. Therefore, you don't expect toxins to enter the xylem vessel. That is why materials which move along the cell wall should be pushed to enter the protoplasm in order to make sure that no toxins which will enter the xylem. Apart from that, when water and mineral salts are forced to enter the protoplasm of the endodermal cells, it makes the secretion, active secretion of salts into xylem vessels. It enables active secretion of salts into xylem vessels. Therefore, the contents of xylem vessel will acquire low water potential due to the presence of mineral salts. And that phenomenon is very important in order to enable it to draw water from the pericycle and other cells. I think you have understood there. Apart from that, you may also find that these bands attaches this membrane to the wall here. So if plasmolysis takes place, still this membrane will be attached to the cell wall because of the presence of these bands. So these are some of the importance of Casparian strips in roots. From there, we can move from roots, we go to the xylem. We are going to check upward movement of water in the xylem. But in order to describe that one, we are going to use guidance which has been prepared by your presenter. That is question number 5. Question 5 says that how each of the following forces helps in upward movement of water and the mineral salts. How each of the following forces helps in upward movement of water and the mineral salts. Here, I'm going to revise with you on 3 forces. One is root pressure. Root pressure. At the beginning, I said that water enters the root hair by osmosis. At the same time, I said that when water and mineral salts reach the endodermal cells, there is active secretion of mineral salts into xylem. Due to that, here we expect the protoplasm in the xylem there to create forces. The force will be created there. That force will trap or will pull water from the neighboring cells. At the same time here, osmosis still takes place. So these forces create hydrostatic pressure. Hydrostatic pressure will be created. That hydrostatic pressure is the one which builds the so-called root pressure. But mind you that root pressure cannot account movement of water up to the higher stems. Let's say 300 meters cannot be counted by root pressure. It means another force is needed in order to push water higher in the stem. It is my hope that you have understood. As usual, don't forget to interact with your materials which you have been provided by your teacher. Interact also with your books in order to make notes about the root pressure. Apart from root pressure, there is also capillarity. Capillarity. Capillarity is caused due to narrow tubes, force which is created in narrow tubes. We know that xylem, as we described in the last presentation, the tubes are narrow. The narrowness of the tubes makes water molecules themselves to attract from each other. The force which is known as cohesion. force between likey molecules. Apart from that, water molecules also collide with the wall of the vessel. Therefore, another force here is created. That force which is created between the wall of the vessel and the water is known as adhesion force. These two forces makes water to raise up. Water raise up in a continuous column. Because of what? These two forces. This force is what is known as capillarity. But still, capillarity cannot account movement of water into tall trees. Let's say 200 meters cannot be accounted by this force. It means another force is needed. That force which is needed here is what is called the transpiration pull. Transpiration pull originates from above. It means originate from the leaves, and it is due to transpiration. I think you know what is transpiration. Loss of water in form of vapor. That process is called transpiration. Therefore, when transpiration takes place, let's say from mesophyll cells which are found here at the leaves, when it loads here, it makes this area to have low water potential. Water potential here will be low compared to the neighboring cells. Therefore, water will be drawn from here to this cell. And when this water molecule moves from, let's say, this point to here, it makes also another water which is here to be pulled from this area to here. Because of what? We said that because of cohesion force. These water molecules have been pulled to each other. So when one molecule is pulled, the molecule also pulls another water molecule, and making it to move in a continuous column. And this phenomenon will go down the xylem and making up water to move up to tall trees. This pulling force is what is called the transpiration pull. I think you have understood. As usual, if you want to master these things, listening alone cannot do anything. You are required to use more efforts. More efforts how? By reading. Sit down, read your notes, read your books. Try to answer several questions. If you stuck somewhere, make sure that you find the solution for it. When you do that, obviously you will master each and everything. Therefore, I beg you, please, 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 make thoroughly revision. As your homework, I gave you question number 3. Don't forget to do that question. Make sure that you do your work. The question says that with the help of diagram, describe the paths of movement of water and mineral salts across the roots. Go and read. I think you have achieved the objectives here. My objective number 1 here, I required you to be able to distinguish between active and passive transport. Therefore, assess yourself. Are you able to distinguish active and passive transport? Objective number 2 is you are required to be able to describe the paths of movement of water across the routes. The paths which I'm talking about are apoplast, symplast, and the vacuolar. Now I'm asking you a question. Are you able to describe those 3 paths? If yes, it is good. And if no, please don't close up your books. Continue to read until you achieve that objectives. Objective number 3 is you are required to explain upward movement of water. Upward movement of water. Now, are you able to explain upward movement of water? That means in the xylem vessel, are you able? And the last aspect or the last objective is to explain forces governing upward movement of water. The forces which I'm talking about are root pressure, capillarity, and the transpiration pool. Now I'm asking you, are you able to explain those forces governing upward movement of water? If you managed to achieve all those 4 objectives, then I can say that my presentation is successful. Thank you for your listening. We shall meet in another presentation. Thank you.